Welcome to the Got Invention Show. I'm your host, Brian Freed, and today our guest is David Klein. He is the inventor of the Jelly Belly Bean, and his name, David Klein, aka the Candyman. Welcome to the show, David.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
good day, good everything.
I love your shirt. I love your shirt. And I think you gave me a sneak peek of what your hat looked like also before the show, right? Oh, look at that.
I would be wearing this right now, but it weighs about 9 pounds. And when it's on my head, I can't think 100%.
That's
right.
okay. That's okay. Just the reveal is definitely very nice. Congratulations on that hat. How long have you had that hat for?
This hat was made for me in 1977 by a man by the name of Nudie, N-U-D-I-E. He used to do all the rhinestone costumes for Elvis. Anytime you saw Elvis in a rhinestone outfit, Nudie made it for him.
Wow, that's a nice treat. So
I went into his.
Go ahead.
I went into his studio, his place of work. It was on Licorice Boulevard in North Hollywood, and I said, I need to buy some clothes. And the outfit that I was wearing at the time cost about $10, the entire outfit from Kmart. And he gave me the once over, and he said, son, Sears and Roebuck is about 1.5 miles from here. I suggest you go there. And I said, no, I'm going to be on the Mike Douglas show. And so come on in. So,
very nice.
Very interesting man.
Well, so are you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from and what the idea was that you had, David.
Okay. I was born in Syracuse, New York. My folks did not like the cold weather there. So at the age of 3, they moved to California, and where I stayed for 67 years. My first experience in the business world was at the age of 6. My grandma and my aunt had a liquor store. The liquor store was in Van Nuys, California. In fact, it was right next door to Joe Funicello's gas station, Union 76 gas station. His daughter was Annette Funicello on the Musketeers. And I worked at the liquor store during the summer after school. I put away, in those days, soda bottles were returnable. They were glass. And I put them in 24 in a box so that the bottling company could pick them up. And I learned to work the register and make change. In those days, and I'm sure it's still today, it was called a package store or something like that, where your family can work there because there was no liquor that was actually open. It wasn't like a bar. And that's where I learned everything about business. I wanted to come out with a book saying everything I learned about business, I learned in a liquor store. And I worked there till the age of 13. And it taught me how to get along with people, how to react to people. A lot of the people came in at 9 o'clock in the morning. They waited in line to get there. I never took a drink because I saw what it did to them. So it was a very good 7-year experience. And I was in charge of the candy section there.
There it is.
So once a week, I would go with my aunt to Smart and Final, and we would look at the new candies that were there. It was very interesting. Back in those days, they didn't shrink wrap the box. So if you wanted to open up the box of 24 bars and you wanted to see what the product tasted like, you would put a nickel in the box, take a bar out, so that whoever bought that box, the store, would start with a sale. And that way you could try an item. You could not do that today.
Well, you noticed how people were when they bought liquor, and you said you didn't want to be those people, but you saw when they bought the candy. So you probably wanted to be those people. So
true. It's
true. Right?
It's absolutely true. And I would look at the bar and see where it was made. Like, for example, I would see Baby Ruth, good, very good seller back then. And back then, it was made by the Curtis Candy Company. And I followed the history of that. It was purchased by Standard Brands, and then that was part of Nabisco, and it went to Nestle, and now it's owned by an Italian firm. So I knew exactly what happened to every brand that was there. And it's an exciting industry. You'd think that it's a huge industry. It's not as huge as you think it would.
So we call you the Candyman today because of your first invention, which was the Jelly Belly Bean. It started off with something else before that, but you had this vision, David. Tell us what sparked that invention, innovation, or innovator in you for coming up with something new, because you were selling things as a good business person, but what sparked you to say, I want to come up with my own jelly bean?
Okay. At that point, in 1974, I was in the wholesale nut, N-U-T, wholesale nut and candy business. And I was looking for an item that was not too crowded. I wanted something that not everybody was doing. And I realized that jelly beans back then, everyone tasted alike. And the reason they all tasted alike, they did a standard center and they didn't flavor it or color it. And I said, I think there is a market for a gourmet jelly bean that would be priced much higher than the others. And I priced it at $2 a pound retail. And at that time, the average jelly bean was retailing for 79 cents a pound. So, I mean, it was pricey. And I was very careful who I sold it to. I didn't want it in any discount stores. I didn't want it in the supermarket. At that time, department stores like Marshall Field's had huge candy sections, and that was my target audience, my target customer.
So, David, when you did come up with the idea for a flavored jelly bean, what did you do first? Like you said, okay, I understand and I see where Babe Ruth is making their candy bars, but what did you do to figure out what you were going to do with that invention of the Jelly Belly Bean?
First of all, I had $800 to my name. Yeah. No credit cards back in those days, except possibly Diners Club, which wouldn't have done me any good. So I was working with $800. But today it probably would have taken a little bit more. But I called a company that was already making your standard jelly beans. Called him on the phone, talked to the owner. It was 6:30 at night, California time, and he was in California, and he happened to answer Today, people don't answer phone calls that much. Very hard to get somebody on the phone. Everything has to be done. Send me an email, send me, whatever. It's a whole different world today. And so he answered the phone. I simply said, I want you to make a mini jelly bean for me. I'd like about 400 to the pound. And I would like them to be flavored on the outside shell as well as the inside. And I've got a list of 8 flavors that I would like. One of them was watermelon. One was green apple. Not really, nothing really crazy like jalapeno or anything like that. And I said, do you think you can do it for me? And he thought about it for a minute and he said, yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Now, this guy that you went to, David, was he owned the company that made just generic jelly beans?
Well, they were making ones at the time that they weren't as exotic as mine, but they didn't know how to market the product. Not that they didn't know how to market it, but Mine had a name to it, Jelly Belly. By the way, I named it Jelly Belly. I was inspired by Lead Belly, who was, I later found out he was arrested.
Oh,
It was named after a guy that went to jail, which, I don't probably didn't, I did not know that at the time. So I was watching Sanford and Son, and they were talking about Lead Belly, the musician, and that name stuck in my mind. So then I created the name Jelly Belly.
it's definitely catchy, and
Yeah,
people
it,
know it all over the world today.
yeah,
Um,
92% name recognition, which I mean, it's not a Coca-Cola, but that's pretty good.
it is very good.
That's
David,
pretty good.
you went to this company and you connected with this person that was already in the business. Did you have any kind of feeling of, hey, if I talk about my idea to this guy who's already in the business, what sort of protection did you have at that point? You really took a chance.
I took a chance. I never had a contract with them. I just figured, they've been around a while. They were primarily making candy corn, and candy corn is made on the same equipment that jelly beans are. It's called a mogul. Back then, if I would have had $1 million, I could have probably made it myself. But I didn't have $1 million. I had $800. So I figured, you know what? Let's give it a shot and see what happens.
Tell us your journey, David. So you connected up with the company. You told him your idea. He said he thinks he can do it. What happened after that?
Okay. So we didn't have a contract. In the beginning days of the Jelly Belly, I needed some place to showcase the product. One of my nut customers made ice cream. He had an ice cream factory at 1824 West Main in Alhambra. And I went in there one day and I said, I'm going into a different type of business. It's going to be a line of mini jelly beans. I'm going to be calling them Jelly Bellies. You've got a little corner of your store as you entered it to the right, where you're showing your medals that you win on, that you won at the county fair. I said, I'd like to put a little stand there, non-refrigerated, that looks like an ice cream. And I don't have any money to pay you for rent. Totally honest with him. And I said, how about if I bring my stand in and we try to sell these things at $2 a pound? And in lieu of rent, I'll give you $1 a pound for every pound that is sold out of here.
Very,
And
very generous.
that's how I got the spot. Well, during the day, his ice cream people that worked his store would man my booth because I was delivering nuts during the day. And every night I would go there from 5 o'clock to closing time, where I would be taking over the stand. The average sale during the day and at night, we did about $20 a day in business.
Wow.
25 was a great day.
You you gave me a flashback of that scene when I watched your documentary, The Candyman, the story of David Klein and your journey with the Jelly Belly Bean. What network was that on again?
It's still on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime right now, you can watch it 24 hours a day. They were charging for it a little bit, but now I noticed a week ago it's free to members.
Whether it's free or for people to pay, it's an amazing story, and you really had your chance to tell people what the experience was. So let's kind of just move forward a little bit more to, you started to see some real good success. You needed to now take your business to the next level. And what happened then, David?
Okay. I realized that I would lose the item, that the manufacturer would have gotten very discouraged. They kept on calling wanting to know why I wasn't reordering. And I said, just give it time. It's going to happen. And so I had to make it happen. I called up Associated Press. I could have started at the local newspaper like the Alhambra Times and been interviewed that, but I wanted to start. It reminds me of an umbrella guy that's selling umbrellas, and he starts at the top of the building in case he gets kicked out. He can sell the umbrellas going down.
Hmm.
So instead of just starting at the bottom where if he gets kicked out, he has to go out of the building. And I started at the top, which was Associated Press back then was huge. It was absolutely, there was no internet back then. There was nothing. And so I called the Associated Press, asked to speak to the editor of the business section. I wanted the article to be in the business section. I didn't want it to be in fashion or anything like that. And a young man by the name of Steve Fox came on. He said, how can I help you? I said, I have the only jelly bean store in the world. And he said, interesting, very interesting. If I had sold other items there, like licorice laces or licorice ropes or gumdrops, it wouldn't have given it its special feeling. And by the way, at that time, I was selling Wally Amos, famous Amos, his chocolate chips.
Yep.
And his pecans. And I was inspired by him. I figured he has a store. He was at Sunset and Formosa in Hollywood. And super guy. I talk to him all the time. He's in his 80s. Remarkable positive energy. And I said to myself, if he could make it just selling chocolate chip cookies, I can make it selling jelly beans. In fact, one day when I had some product, I went in there to his office and I said, Wally, I want you to see my new product. He said, oh, Dave, come on in. And he was playing his kazoo. He had a kazoo. And he said, what are these? And he tasted them. And I said, Wally, I will give you half of my business if you join me in this venture. Don't really need your money, but I need your whatever you can give me. And he looked at me and he said, half, huh? I said, yeah, half. He said, Dave, that's very generous of you, but I'm a cookie man. I'm not a candy man. And as a matter of fact, there is an interview that I did with him 39 years later. It's about a 40-minute interview. If you go to Google and put his name in, Wally Amos, skip a space or two, and then put my name in there, David Klein, and then put interview, you'll find a very interesting reunion between me and him 39, 40 years
Very nice.
later.
We definitely will. So what was the real challenge or the turning point that kind of was the break or the breakthrough, however you want to look at it, for you, David?
Well, he said, I'd like to come down and see your operation. And I said, how about this Sunday morning at 10 o'clock? He said, fine, I'll be there. And he was there. And I had some customers lined up, friends of mine that were there. There was a movie that they did where they set up a whole, I'm not going to call it a scam because it wasn't really a scam, but a whole setup where it made it look like they were successful. People don't like to write up about you unless they think it's a success, because they will tell you, you know what, you're not ready to be written up quite yet. Come back when you're a real business. It's almost like nobody wants to give a break when you really need it. So sometimes you have to act like you are successful. So I had people there that I knew that I said, the guy's coming. When he's here, here's $5. Buy 2 pounds and give me a little story behind it. And he looked at me and he looked at the customer snaking out the door on a Sunday morning. And he said, "Is it always this busy?" And I said, "Yes, it's even busier. This is a Sunday, it's kind of slow." And he was fascinated why all those people were there. And I felt kind of guilty doing it, but you know what?
Act
He
as if.
wrote it. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
He wrote it up. It went to the LA Times. It went to the Chicago Tribune. It hit the wire service. A couple days later, I got a call from Marshall Fields in Chicago. And the buyer said, I've got $20,000 in my budget. How can I get your bean? I want to get them before my competition gets them. And I said, "Really?" I said, "How'd you hear about it?" He said, "What do you mean?" It was in the Chicago Tribune. I said, "Great." And I said, "I have one problem. I can't wait 90 days. Department stores back then and even now were notorious for like really, really slow pay. And they had so many provisions on the purchase order. If you don't put the purchase order on each box, we'll fine you $2, $3 a box. And they sent the purchase order to, I had my manufacturer drop ship it to them, so to avoid duplicate freight charges. And so nobody ever read that thing there. And so when it came time for me to get my check, they had deducted about $2,000 or $3,000 as a fine for not putting the purchase order on each. Okay, there are so many pitfalls along the way that you don't realize. You've got to be so careful what you're doing. And I said to the buyer, I said, "I don't have the money to finance this." And people didn't have credit cards back then. I said, "Can you send me a check in advance?" He said, "We're Marshall Fields. We don't pay in advance." And I said, "Okay, I understand that." He said, "But I'll tell you what I will do. The day your product hits our dock, I will go into our controller, whoever pays the bills, and I'll see that your check is issued so you don't have to wait the usual time." And he kept his word. That's the only way that I was able to do that. And after Marshall Fields had the product, just about everybody that went in there said these are fantastic. Other candy stores would go in there and say, "You know what? How can we get it?" I never really had to do, after that article hit in Associated Press, I never had to worry about selling the product because suddenly the whole world had discovered it.
David, tell us about what happened at the certain point where all of a sudden you really got yourself into a jam and you had to figure out and make some decisions on if you were going to move forward or if you were going to get out because it was overwhelming for you for the amount of business that you had coming in. So what happened then, David?
Here's basically the problem that I did not know about when I contacted my co-packer, give me the word. Who were they? They were my contract
Manufacturer. Yep.
And I didn't realize that they only had 10 people working for them. I had asked the owner of the company, I said, I really have a feeling this is going to be big. I really have that instinct that it's going to be big. Are you going to be able to keep up with production? He said, "Any order you throw our way, we'll produce for you. Don't worry about that." But it got to the point where they could only produce for me 1 million pounds a year. And that was it. And one of the reasons that the problem happened was I was in People magazine and I was in a bathtub. I had my shorts on the bottom. I wasn't naked in there, but my chest was showing and the beans were stuck to my chest. It was a 105-degree day when we took the photo shot. I was in the back of my truck. And when the owner of the company back then saw me, he turned to the sales manager, and without telling me, he said to him, "It's over. Dave has ruined the company by posing like this in a national magazine. It's disgraceful the way he was in People magazine like that." And he said, we have to keep the factory alive. So I want you to go out tomorrow and sign contracts with people for candy corn. Candy corn took the same equipment that Jelly Belly did. And without telling me what he was doing, the sales manager, as a good sales manager, started selling candy corn to take the place of the jelly beans when I would go out of business for this crazy stunt that I pulled. And I didn't find out about that until several years later. I did not know why I didn't have any production, significant production, for about a year. And that was a problem.
Hmm.
That was a big problem.
And what happened after that, David? What did you do? Where were you? What were you thinking? What was the next steps that you were going to do to kind of counter?
Okay, first of all, I had total loyalty to them. I didn't ever look for another source to make the product. I figured, okay, somehow or another it's going to work out. And then they asked me to become a distributor for the product. They wanted to sell it to their customers. And so I said, okay. And they said they would pay me 17 cents a pound for everything that was sold. And they kept accurate records. And once a month, they would send me a spreadsheet or whatever those things are called. And then it came to the point where they said, we now want to take over the brand. We want to be the only distributor. You're going to have to get rid of everybody else. We'll supply them with product ourselves, and we want the whole ball of wax. And so they called me up on the phone, and they said, "We're coming to town." Like a Western at noon, And I said, "Oh, great, I'll pick you up at the airport." And they said, "It's not that kind of a meeting." And the owner actually said to me, "We're coming to town and we're not leaving until we have the trademark." And I said, "Okay." So they came to town, would pack the room with their lawyer and their accountant and all those kind of people. And they accomplished their goal. On the way to the bank, which was on Rosemead and Valley Boulevard, where we had to go to notarize the agreement, the owner was sitting in the front seat. I was in the back. And I said to him, if we were not going right now to notarize this agreement, just out of curiosity, what were you prepared to do? And he said, "Do you really want to know?" I said, "Yeah, you might as well tell me." He had a piece of paper, like a cardboard piece of paper, that had a name on it. I need to be hypnotized to recollect what that name was. I don't remember it. He said, "Well, we would have flown back to Oakland, and Monday morning we would have cut you off completely. There'd be no more Jelly Belly. We would have made the formula, sold it under a different name. We know that you would have sued us, but by the time it got to court, you would have been broke." And so I said, okay. Wow. And I believed him. I think he was prepared to do that.
And you ended up settling with them. obviously you were going to the bank to get notarized, and you worked out some kind of settlement.
Yeah,
Was it? Go ahead.
sorry. Unfortunately, it was a 20-year agreement,
Yep.
which also kept me out of the jelly bean business for 20 years. It would never have been able to be enforced by the courts because they would have interpreted it as too long of a period. You know, a non-compete for 5 years is usually okay, fine, but maybe 10 years, but 20 years to keep somebody out of a business, the courts would not never have gone along with that.
Very tough. Very tough.
Yeah, very tough. So, and then we got a payment once a month. So the present value of money versus future value of money, 20 years from now is not worth getting now, same amount. And they put a cap on it of 120,000 pounds per month. And they only paid us on the first 120,000 pounds. And anything over that, they didn't give us anything on that. So we got was it a good deal? No, it did not turn out to be a good deal, but it was my loyalty to them, and that I did not try to find a different manufacturer.
Well, they kept you out of the candy and the jelly belly business, or the jelly bean business,
It's
for
jelly bean 20
right
years.
for 20 years, but you didn't really stop. You were thinking and innovating, and even to this day, you have things that you're involved with that are in the candy business. So
Yes.
that was a journey for you, David, and that was very
Yeah.
interesting. And it's tough. You build something and you don't know which direction it's going to go, and there you are. But your mind kept you going and keep
Good.
building.
Very good. Very, very true and very nicely said. Uh, we last couple years have been very exciting for us. We entered the CBD jelly bean business, and that went really, really viral. The articles I said in there, these are created by the man who invented Jelly Bellies.
What brand is it under, David?
Spectrum Confections, Spectrum Confections. And then they issued a press release, Jelly Belly did. They were not happy with me saying created by the man who invented Jelly Bellies. And they said, Dave Klein really didn't have too much to do with us. For 4 years, I traveled around the country on the Mike Douglas Show, on AM New York, AM Los Angeles with Regis. I worked around the clock getting recognition for the product. And they said, well, he hasn't had anything to do with us for an awful long time. And all he really did was name the product. And so they made me sound like I didn't really do too much with it, which was totally untrue. And then the last venture that we did a fortune, a treasure hunt, which was a remarkable experience. We had, at its height, we had over 50,000 people on it's called the Gold Ticket. The Gold Ticket. We had over 50,000 people on our Facebook page. And these are people that we didn't buy them from, phony people. I guess you can do that. I don't know how, but I never would want to be involved in that. These are real people. And the stories that I heard from them about how it was right during the height of the COVID, how it uplifted them, gave them something that they could all do as a family in the car without exposing themselves to other people. And it was nationwide. It was throughout the whole country. We put a gold ticket in each. We put a gold ticket in each. Can you see that?
Yep.
The one we put, it wasn't this big. This is a giant.
Yeah, we see it.
And then we came out with a riddle for each one. They had to buy into to the to it, and we came out with a riddle, and whoever found the gold ticket got $5,000, and it created so much excitement and everywhere. I mean, just unreal, from organically grown. It was just so so
Well, you
so
def-
exciting.
you're definitely keeping your name as the Candyman, whether it's jelly belly beans or jelly beans or whatever you're doing.
Yeah,
What is the future? I see you keep putting yourself out there with all kinds of contests and ways
yeah.
to just keep people loving candy. What's the next venture for you, if not actually happening right now?
We have so much going right now, and we have so many things that we're not afraid. You can't be afraid of trying things. But the real trick is to limit your exposure. As far, you don't want to bet the farm on any one project. So every business that I've been involved with, uh, I like starting with not that much money. And I don't think I've ever started anything with an investment of more than $1,000. Uh, and it's exciting to start something from nothing. There's nothing quite like it. My tip to somebody starting a business: first step, get the domain, because every day goes by, the domains are harder and harder to get. So get the domain. You don't really have to have any sales to get the domain. You go to GoDaddy or one of those places, spend $10, because maybe 6 months or a year later, and you have the perfect domain that describes what you're doing. And if somebody else gets it, it's demoralizing. It really is. So first step, I would get the domain, and I do the business differently than what other people are doing. Try not to copy anybody. Put your own little twist to it. And it doesn't have to be that big of a twist. It doesn't have to be revolutionary, just so that it's different than what's on the market. Whether it's different, anything. Like, I mean, you could name a product and I'll tell you what I would do with it. Name any candy product, anything. And I would
Any
tell you
candy
what I would do.
product?
Anything.
Oh
Anything.
my goodness. What about Sour Patch Kids?
We were actually at the forefront of the sour industry. We took a regular red licorice stick. There's American licorice on the West Coast, and there's Hershey with Jones Twizzler on the East Coast. Do you have a preference of Twizzlers or American licorice? You like
I
licorice?
I do like licorice.
Okay.
It's you know what? For me, I probably have to go to the dentist with some cavities. I am a big candy man. I am not the candy man you are inventing it, but I definitely have a good. I do a good job eating it. So yes, I don't really have a preference. Whatever's in front of me.
Do you ever eat black licorice?
Yes.
Okay. Just a little warning here. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice,
Okay.
but someday there's going to be a warning on black licorice that excessive consumption can lower your body potassium. Go to Google and put that in, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So just be very, very careful that you don't eat too much black licorice.
Okay.
That
I
doesn't
haven't
go.
eaten black in a long time.
That's good. You can eat red licorice that doesn't have any licorice in it. And so we used to buy by the truckload in the 80s, 1980s. We used to buy 40,000 pounds of red licorice, and we took the product and we put a sour coating on it. So, and then everybody said, well, that's going to be a fad. And I said, no, I don't think so. Kids really like sour licorice. We created the whole sour licorice industry.
What
Yeah.
sour, the sour sticks, or I forgot what the name of it is, but
Yeah,
yeah.
well, we were copied by everybody, and they were able to do it at a much lower price than we did, and that could be another documentary about that. But we actually started that industry. So give me something that's I'm not that familiar with it. I had a insight on that.
Oh, well, I mean,
Any other product, anything, name a product.
I'm hitting just the regular. I haven't gone into any unique creative. I mean, there's so many people that are making homemade things out there these days that become unique, like with the pretzels that are covered.
Right. Hershey just bought a pretzel company for over $1 billion. It just started as a baby. Today, if somebody wants to get into the candy business, a good tip: most states allow you to join what's called the cottage food industry. Are you familiar with that at all?
No.
You can start it out of your house because it's expensive to open up a candy factory. I'm not saying all states allow this, but go to Google and put cottage food industry of your state, wherever you are, and you can set up operating out of your house. Each one has different kind of laws as to what is allowed. Some will not allow dairy products for various reasons, but you can start it. I know people that have started a candy business out of their house and build it to the point where they said, okay, now I'm going to get a factory.
Hmm.
So that would be my first tip. See if you can do it out of your house.
David, there's so many people that are watching and listening to you and your story on Got Invention Show. Thank you so much for joining us. If you can give, and you did already, from the business perspective, and I guess it can relate to the invention side of it also, where you want to figure out what the market is and who your competitors are and how much of a difference yours is going to make to be able to make a difference out there and be able to become successful. But with you, you just keep taking shots out there to see what works and what doesn't work. Can you give us some final words of wisdom, David? Tell us what we need to do to keep our ideas moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, I know this is going to sound kind of crazy,
Tell us.
and it's not my own idea, but don't quit your day job. Keep your day job so you have income coming in where you don't put that much financial pressure on you. So that would be number one. Number two, get that domain really, really early in the game and come up with a name that people will remember, a name that's really, really
Catchy.
unique, that describes what you're doing. And just don't be afraid of trying things that have never been done before. And don't listen to people when they say that's a stupid idea, because they are going to say that. Everybody, just about everybody, told me, you know what, that's a stupid idea.
Huh.
Don't listen to them. Just block out anybody that's negative. Don't listen to negative people because there are plenty of them out there. And that would probably be my best advice. If you
Thank
have a
you.
good idea, pursue it. Pursue the idea and don't let anything stop you. Don't let anything stop you.
Thank you, David. How do we keep in touch with you? How do we find out what you're up to? Website, social media? Tell us.
Join our Gold Ticket Facebook page where I like to post ideas there that either I'm involved with or that people can do. Because I mean, I don't like ideas just sitting around. I like people doing things, and I'm always posting some kind of idea there on there. So it's the Gold Ticket Facebook page. Join that, and you can be with us.
And we could keep in touch and see all your upcoming ventures and adventures that you have. Everything pretty much is on that Facebook page.
Yeah, pretty much.
Excellent. And I know that you're active also on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I like LinkedIn. I really do, because it presents a different audience than Facebook does. LinkedIn, you have a lot of business people on there, and I've made some really good contacts on LinkedIn that I would have never been in touch with them before without that. Yeah, LinkedIn's good. Did you know that LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft? Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
not
Years
not
ago.
many people. Not many people know that. I've really enjoyed this. I thank you
David,
for your time.
you're amazing, and
You're,
I've gotten a chance.
I'm not that amazing, but
Well,
I never give up. I
yep.
never give up.
Well, the vision that you had and where you took it, fine. It ended up getting kind of swept out, but you created it, and you're the man that created Jelly Belly Bean. No matter how much they say or
Yeah,
they don't say, you're
yeah.
it. So congratulations. I've really appreciated, and I'm going to continue to keep in touch. We've known each other for years now. Finally
Right.
have a chance to get you on the interview here on Got Invention Show. So thank you very much for joining us. And what are you going to say?
I've enjoyed it.
Likewise. Thank you very much. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
what we be good and keep on inventing also, David. Thank you
Always.
very much.
Thank you.
And thank you again, David Klein. He is the Candyman, and hope you enjoyed the interview. If you'd like to be a guest on the Got Invention Show, you can easily go to the domain name gotinventionshow.com. Thank you very much, everybody, and keep on inventing.